Hello GameMakers, this is GameMaker Rob, and in today's episode we now have a new way of displaying units. This means that no matter how many units we have, let's just buy a load of archers, they will all display on the screen in one big party like this. And we've also updated the class selection using the same code. And we also change how we add gear. We now use the keys rather than the mouse. So let's get started. Okay, so we're going to add some variables in the create event, and then I'm just going to show you and explain how the ellipse, the radial menu, is going to work for the units. The code in the create event you're going to want to copy down. The code in the draw GUI for now, you don't have to copy it, but you can follow along just so you can see the effects in your own game. But we are going to be changing the draw GUI code afterwards, so if you don't want to waste your time, then don't copy it straight away. So anyway, in the create event of our army screen object, we have a new region called army screen radial display and rotation. Let's just increase the size of the font. That's the maximum, and that's just above the testing region. So let's open this now. We want to save the width and height of the GUI in these two variables here. We also want to know the middle of the ellipse. So where do we want to draw the ellipse on the screen, which is going to be the ellipse draw X and ellipse draw Y. The width of the ellipse is going to be 360 pixels, and the height is going to be 1/4 of the width. Okay, so make sure you've got these copied down, and then we're going to go into the draw GUI region, and in the choose unit, we're going to use some of this code, but I'm just going to comment this out. Sorry, we're going to use some of this code for the demonstration. For the actual code that we're going to keep, we're not going to use any of it really. So I'm going to comment this out for now, and then copy and paste this code here. Okay, cool. So these notes just kind of help me think about how it's going to work. So the way the angles work in GameMaker is facing right is where we start at 0 degrees, and then it works anti-clockwise. So up is 90, left is 180, and down is 270. Now we want our current unit, or the selected option, to be at the very bottom, because that's kind of closest to the player. So that's why we have a start angle of 270. These variables here are just going to draw our ellipse. They're pretty self-explanatory, but start angle is 270 because we want to start from the bottom. Then we're going to draw units in like a circular fashion, clockwise. So you can see if you move clockwise, you're taking away from the angle. So the first thing we want to know is what is the angle difference between drawing two units. An angle difference is basically 360 degrees divided by however many units you have, which for this particular region is going to be the size of the army list. And then draw scale. So for now we're going to draw all of our units with a scale of 3. Like I said, that's going to change. Then we're just going to use the for loop, just like here. The angle is going to be the start angle minus I times the angle difference. And then draw X and draw Y. We're going to make use of length dir X and length dir Y. What these two functions do is they give us a vector. So a vector is, it gives us coordinates if you tell it an angle and how far you want to go in that angle, and that will give us an x coordinate, and the same for the y coordinate. So it's really useful for getting positions on the edge of a circle or ellipse, something like that. That's what these two functions are useful for. So draw x is going to tell us where on the ellipse to draw each unit. Same with draw y, and then we're just going to use our army screen script to draw the unit. So let's run the game. Let's just make sure this is working first of all. Like I said, you don't have to copy this down. We're going to be changing it in a minute. Line 28. What did I do? Oh, sorry, I didn't. I had the names as unit draw x and unit draw y, but they didn't make sense because it's the center of the ellipse, so I just renamed it. Let's try again. Okay, there we go. So instead of listing all of the units, we now have a circle, an ellipse, which means that no matter how many units we have, we can see them all in one go, because with our list of units going across the screen, if you had a certain amount, they were just going to be drawn off the screen. So that's why this kind of radial display is going to work a lot better for us. We're going to use this in when changing class as well, which we'll do today. And next episode we will use the same scripts to display units that we can add to our army before battles. So but again, that's going to be next episode. So for now, you should just have something like this. If you press left or right, you know, it'll move between the units. But what we're going to have is we're going to have the actual units move when we press left or right. It's going to have like a nice graphical effect. So we are going to get onto that now. Okay, so let's go back to the create event. We're going to add 2 more things to our new region. The first thing is going to be our draw queue. What this is going to do, this is going to tell our game every step. It's going to have all of its contents read and drawn, and then the queue is going to be empty every step and then refilled. Why do we need that? Because the way that the units are drawn in the ellipse with a for loop, if you have too many units, they get drawn over each other in the wrong order, and we need more control over the draw order. We can't just trust GameMaker for this, just because of the way we're doing it. So the simplest way is just to make a queue, and we're going to add things to the queue in the order that we want them to be drawn. So that's what this queue is going to be for. And we're going to have a new script. So this script is going to reset or set up all of our variables for the ellipse. We need to call it every time we make a change to an ellipse. For example, the angle difference is going to be different if there are less or more units. Also, if we've been rotating the ellipse around, we make a change, then the bottommost unit isn't going to be in the right place, so we have to account for that as well. So this basically, this script is going to be run whenever there's any changes made to the ellipse, and whenever we need to set things up. We're going to be using it a couple of times, so it's just handy to know what it's for, and it needs to know the list of units that we're going to be drawing, and also the queue we're going to be using to draw them, although the only thing that the setup does is actually clear the queue, just to make sure there's nothing left in there by mistake. There shouldn't be, but you know, it's always good to double check. Okay, so let's go into this script now. So finish rotating. We're not going to allow the player to make to have any more input while the ellipse is rotating. So that's why we have this boolean. if it has not, if finished rotating is false, then the player won't be able to do anything basically. Start angle. This should start at 270, and as we press left or right, wanted angle is going to be equal to start angle minus or plus an angle, and then if start angle is not equal to wanted angle, start angle is going to change, and that's how we're going to move the units around, because the first unit is always going to be drawn at the start angle, but the start angle might not be equal to 270 anymore. It might be equal to 90. Angle diff, we've already explained that one. And then just clear the queue, the draw queue. Okay, so now we're going to create another script, and we're going to call it SCR ellipse sort draw order. So following on from what I was talking about in the last one, we need to fill a queue with data of what unit to draw, where to draw it, the scale of the unit, that kind of thing. So we're going to hold the data for each unit and where to draw it in a list, and each of those lists is going to be added to the draw queue with a priority based on its draw Y. So they aren't going to be drawn in the order they appear in the list. They're going to be drawn in the order they appear in the queue, but it will look the same as though they were being drawn as before. Anyway, this is the script. We need to know a list of units to draw. So this can be the army list, or we're going to have a list of classes that we're going to make to add instead. Draw queue is the queue we're going to add the units, the lists to. Highest draw Y. So we want to draw the units at a different scale. The ones at the back need to be smaller than the ones at the front. The way we are going to define a scale is the difference between a unit's Y and the highest Y, i.e. the bottommost unit. That's going to give us an amount in pixels, and then we're going to use a function called lerp, which is going to give us a value between 0 and 4 for the scale to draw the unit. You'll see that below. So temp list, the only job of temp list is to hold the lists that we're going to add to the queue while we get the value of highest draw Y, and then we're just going to destroy it. We don't need it outside of the script. That's why it's a local variable. Then this for loop here is going to work out the angle and the draw X, draw Y for each unit. So the angle is going to depend on angle difference, I, and start angle. Draw X, draw Y, we've already kind of explained that in the draw GUI. It's the same kind of principle. All we're doing here is we are detecting the highest draw Y. So if draw Y is greater than highest draw Y, then just set highest draw Y to draw Y, and that will give us the bottommost unit, whatever its draw coordinate is. So we're making a list here. These are the lists that we're going to be adding to the queue in a little bit, and we're going to add to these lists all of the information that we need. So the first thing is which unit is going to be drawn, then the coordinates, then the scale. We're going to change that afterwards. The facing of the unit, whether to show the name or not, and the action. It's basically, if you type SCR army screen draw unit, it's just these at the bottom of the screen. It's just these arguments that we're saving to the list, because we're going to be using this script to draw the units. So And then once we've filled the list with all the information for this unit, add that list to the temp list. Okay, so after all this has been done, we're going to end up with a temporary list full of lists that have the draw information. So after that for loop, we're going to have this. And this, the purpose of this loop is to assign scale for each of the units and also to add them to the queue. So grab the list from temp list, grab the units draw Y from the list we just grabbed. YDiff is going to hold the difference between the units draw Y and the highest draw Y. We need this value so we can use lerp, which will give us a scale based between min scale and max scale, but based on YDiff. And then we just need to save the draw scale to the list. So we're overwriting this value basically, and then add that list to the draw queue with a priority of the units draw Y. We want the things to be we're going to be drawing the things at the top first to make sure everything gets drawn over itself. So that's the end of the script. Okay, so now we are going to go back to the draw GUI, and it's going to look the same after we put the code there. It's just going to show you how we are now using scripts to draw the units to get the same effect. So go to the draw GUI event of army screen, and then let me just, there we go. So let's just make this a bit easier. So zooming out first of all, this was the code we had before the start of the episode. I've got rid of the code we had before with the for loop because most of this is going to be kind of new because we're going to be using our scripts we've just made. So this is what it looks like on the tactical level, and if we zoom in, hopefully the code is easy to see. So we're just drawing the ellipse as before. For now, we just need this because we're going to be using this code to draw classes as well. But for now, let's just say list equals army list. We're going to use our sort draw order script. We're going to pass it the army list, and we're going to pass it the draw queue. And then all this loop is going to do, this while loop, is going to take a list from units to draw, and it's deleting the minimum first because if you remember, the priority is based on the draw Y. So the ones at the top are going to have the minimum priority. So we're going to grab them first. We're going to run our army screen draw unit script and just pass it the list variables like that. And then just get rid of the list. We don't need it anymore. And after this loop is gone, we'll have no list left, and the queue is going to be empty, this queue. And that's it. So if we run the game now, let's get some gold from these guys. I'm just going to buy as many archers as I can. So we have a lot of units. And then if we go to the army screen, you can see that on the edges, it was here where we had a draw problem before. So because these guys are being drawn first, it means that there's no glitching, there's no overlap between the sprites. So that's the effect you should have at the moment. Okay, so now we are going to do some fun stuff. We are going to go into the step event and allow us to rotate the ellipse. So in the step event, in the change option region here, so if we're pressing left or right, this used to be our line for the choose unit, but we're going to use this code instead. So I'm just zoom in. There we go. So if we have finished rotating the units and the state is choose unit. Well, we don't need that for now. Here we do. Okay, so if we finish rotating and the state is choose unit, then we're going to run this region here. So selected unit equals either a value between 0 and the size of the army list -1. We're going to set finish rotating to false. That's going to allow us to rotate the ellipse once again. If we press left, we're going to change wanted angle by taking away angle difference from the start angle. If we press right, we're just going to add this to the start angle. This gives us the effect of, if you press left, it rotates to the one from the right comes to you. If you press right, the one from the left comes to you. So you might want to swap these around based on personal preference, but this is just the way that I decided to set it up. And then if we minimize this region and go down here, so we have this little bit down here. This is going to sort out the rotation and setting finished rotating. So I'm just going to zoom in. There we go. Okay, so if the start angle is not equal to wanted angle, which if we press left or right, this is not going to equal this, then we want to rotate the units. Start angle is going to increase by the sine of wanted angle take away start angle. So this is going to be either -1, 0, or 1. But then we're going to times that value by angle difference divided by 50. Why divide by 50? Just so it'll take longer than a step to get there. If we just had this, then it'll rotate straight away. Like there'll be one step between the units switching places. So divide by 50 is just to get us a gradual spin. Otherwise, if start angle is equal to wanted angle, then we can say finished rotating is true, so we're done. So let's run the game and you'll see what this does now. Okay, so let's go into the army, press left, rotates this way, press right, rotates this way. And if we go back out, go to the shop, let's buy as many archers as we can, and then go back to the army screen, rotate. So you can see the rotation is slower. It seems slower anyway. Well, basically the time it takes for one unit to reach where it needs to be should be the same. It just looks slower. So you just need to change this value if you want to change the speed of the rotation. So, but if you have copied the tutorial so far, this is what you should have. Just to make it a bit clearer to see which unit is selected, or make it more obvious to the player rather, we're just going to re-implement our white rectangle. I've just literally added this now. So it does require one change instead of list. So we're in the draw GUI region of the object, and we're in choose unit, and this used to be list equals army list, but just change it to draw list, and then change it to draw list here, and then these lines here are new. Basically we're going to say if the unit that's being drawn in this loop is the same as the unit that selected unit will point to in the current list, which is the army list, then just draw our white rectangle, but using the list variables for draw x, draw y, and scale, like that. And if we just run the game, we can see that in action. So there we go. If we press enter, You can see we've got the archer. If we press enter again, you can see we've got the fighter. You'll notice we're not using the ellipse setup script to reset things after we press enter. That's why the currently selected unit isn't the first one shown at the bottom, but we're going to sort that out now. Actually, just to save my sanity, we're going to incorporate changing class into everything that we've done so far. What we need first is a script. Going to call it SCR ellipse add classes to list. So let's just zoom in. So the purpose of this script is to put whatever class the current unit is first, and then add all the other classes in order, but then with a wraparound. So say for example his class is halfway down, like a mage or something, then let me just go into the create event of main to explain this. Okay, so normally you'd start at fighter and then we would draw all these classes, but say for example the character was a knight. We want the knight to be shown at the bottom, then we want to display ranger, sniper, wizard, sorcerer, healer, and then the rest of the ellipse is going to be fighter, archer, mage, priest, warrior. So all the script is going to do is organize a list that starts at the starting class. So for example here, adds all of these to the list, then adds all of these to the list, and that's it. That's the function of this script. We're going to have a new list in the create event called list of classes. We're going to pass that to this script. We're going to need to know the starting class of the unit. We want to sort our list of classes into ascending order, just so we can add them to a temporary list, and then we're going to copy that temporary list back to list of classes. So list of classes isn't always going to be in ascending order, but we're going to sort it just so we can do that. Total classes is however many classes we have. Temp list is just going to organize the classes before we copy them back to our list of classes. Counter starts at starting class. The very last class is going to be whichever one is last in ascending order. So if we go to obj main, the very last class is a monk. Okay, so while the size of the temp list is less than classes, we're just going to keep adding whatever counter equals to the temp list. So counter starts at starting class, then it adds one to itself, then it adds the next class to temp list, and so on. We need to check to see if counter is going to go past last class. If it does, then we're going to set counter to leave empty +1, which is, jump back again, there's leave empty, there's +1, so we're going to set it as fighter. And all we do is we're going to copy temp list back to list of classes and destroy our temporary list. If we go into the create event at the very bottom, we're going to create our list of classes, and then we're just going to add the classes to our list first of all, just so we have something to work with when we come to run our script. So now we're going to make some changes to the step event. Okay, so we no longer need this line for changing class, because we're going to use the same code for both change class and choose unit. So we've updated this line here. So if finish rotating and the state is either choose unit or change class, then run this code. If the state is choose unit, then that's when we're going to have this line that we had before. Otherwise, if the state is change class, then we're going to update selected option. So it's kind of copy pasted from the lines that we commented out, but it's within this block of code instead now. And that's it for this part. One thing we need to do is we need to be running our new script and the ellipse setup script when we change class. So in the press enter region, in the state, in the change class state bit, we're just gonna add these two lines here. So we're gonna run the add classes to list, pass it the list of classes and whatever option it is, and selected option is going to equal the class basically. And then we're going to run our setup script for the ellipse, and instead of army list, we're going to pass it list of classes, and we're going to pass it the same draw queue. And then in the draw GUI, got a couple of changes to make. So we're now going to use our ellipse script for choose unit as well as change class. So this line's been updated. Instead of just setting draw list as army list, we're going to say if it's choose unit, then set draw list as army list. Otherwise, draw list is going to be list of classes, and then whichever one of these two is true, the draw list is going to get passed to our sort draw order script. So draw list can either be for the choosing unit or changing class. It's going to work the same. And then we have to change this line as well. So we need to know which class or unit is selected. So we've got a new variable called selected option for that, or selopt for short. So if it's choose unit, then selopt is what we had before. Otherwise, selopt is the same as selected option. And then we just need to change, instead of what we had before, we're just checking to see if list entry 0 is the same as selopt. And selopt is going to be either this or this. And then because we're now using that region, we can just comment out the change class one. We can just actually just destroy it, get rid of it. We don't need it anymore. So let's run the game. Let's go to army. Let's choose archer. Let's change his class. So now you can see all these different classes. Let's change him to a healer. At the top right, you can see his class is healer, but his name's archer. Don't worry if your stats say kill instead of class. We're going to be updating this later today. It's a little bug fix. And if we go back to choose units, you can see you should have this. So it's kind of like a weird draw order. This is because we have not yet told the script to update for going back to this part. So don't worry if this is what you have. This is what you're supposed to have right now for choose units. I just noticed that I still had unit draw X and draw Y in some places, so I'm just going to update that now. Sorry about that. If you go into ellipse sort draw order, just replace unit draw X and unit draw Y with these two. And then in the draw GUI, we don't need these two lines because we're setting ellipse draw and Y in the create event. Just make sure that instead of unit draw X, unit draw Y, that we have these two instead. Okay, so now that that's done, if we go into the step event, so we're done with change option. If we go into the pressed enter region, so this one here, and then we want to be in fire unit, so if we fire the unit, then we need to update our angle difference. So we're just going to run our ellipse setup script. So that's the only change we need to make there. And if we press backspace, if we're going back to the choose unit state, then we need to again run our setup script for the ellipse. And that'll do it for now. Let's run the game. So right now, we should have the same functionality we did before we had the ellipses. So we can choose a character. Let's choose the mage. Go to change class. You can see the first class is the mage class. If we change him to a knight and go back to choose a person, go back to the mage. You can see his class is a knight in the top right. Go back to change class. Change back to a wizard. So you should have something like this. Okay, now we're going to make the equipping gear, that kind of stuff. We're going to make it in line with the rest of the game, where we don't use the mouse, we just use keys for this. This means that we're not going to be doing the calculations inside the draw GUI event. We're going to be doing it inside the step. We are going to be able to copy a lot of the code from the draw GUI to the step. For now, we're just going to comment out stuff that we do and don't need. So in the draw GUI, in the display gear region, we don't need this line, but we are going to use it in a step. These 4 lines are copied from here underneath change equipment. This stuff here, where we're checking for the mouse, you can see most of it is commented out. We're going to move all of this into the step. So don't delete it, just save it for now. Just comment it out. It's not a waste. We're going to use it in the step with a small update to the code. I think that's it for this region. And then display gear list. It's kind of the same. So we've moved these 4 lines from here. And then this code inside checking for mouse left pressed. We're going to move it to the step event. And that's it for those regions. So make sure you've got something that looks like that. I'll show you what this region should look like after we've done all the moving around. We'll go to the step next. Okay, so going to the step event of our object, and in the change option region, we've got this. If we're changing equipment, then we want this region. If we're not showing the gear list, then select option is going to be choosing which slot we want to change the gear of. Otherwise, if we are showing the gear list, then we're picking from the available items that will fit in one of these slots. Then we've updated the pressed enter region as well. So we've gone past fire unit, we've gone past change units class. We want to be, let me just minimize some regions. Okay, so just to make things a bit clearer, so this curly bracket is the end of if we've pressed enter. So and then we've got display options with a curly bracket there. Otherwise, if we choose change class, it's this one. Otherwise, then we want this new stuff here, change equipment. So if the show gear list is false, we're copy pasting this code from the draw GUI event basically, but we're updating this line to selected option and this line to selected option. It used to be I basically, as it says here. And then we want to set selected option to 0. And we want to set selected option, to left hand. This only runs if the size of the gear list is 0. So that's why we're overwriting this here. Going to minimize it now. Remember this, you can copy paste this code from the draw GUI and then just update I with selected option here and here. Oh, three places. Sorry, 2 places. Here and here. And then this region, let's minimize this one. Adding gear to a slot. Again, copy and paste from the draw GUI. Replace I with selected option. So here and here. And the rest should be the same, but just give it a quick check. Then backspace. So we're in choose units, otherwise this is new. If we're changing equipment, then we want to clear the gear list. We want to say, okay, don't show the gear list, and we want to reset selected option to left hand. Otherwise, that's when we just go to the default. So we just need to make allowances for if we're in change equipment and showing the gear list. That's all. And that should be it. If we run the game, we should now be able to change a gear with keys instead of the mouse. You could leave the mouse in and do both, but we don't really use the mouse in any part of the game, so it doesn't make sense. So let's change Butz's gear, pressing left and right. Let's change his armor to nothing. Let's give him a dagger in this slot and empty this slot, and then let's give him his armor back. So let's just switch back to him. Make sure the changes have stayed. That's cool. So one last thing to do is in the top right, you probably says your stats text probably says kill instead of class. This is because we added some new enumerators and did not update the CSV or the text file. So want to go to included files, open in Explorer, stat strings. So we added is special. It should be there. This is the one that is messing up the order. That's why kill is shown instead of class. And then we want to add cost at the bottom just in case we ever need to draw it. And I think that should be it. Let me just check one more thing. Draw display stats we want. Because I think stat text grid is just the grid from the CSV, isn't it? Yeah. So cool. So let me just tidy up the draw GUI. Okay, so in the draw GUI for our regions that we gutted, display gear should now look like this. Its sole task is just to draw the gear, the boxes, and then display gear list is just this. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I will catch you next time. Bye for now.